It's 9/11, so what should we remember? Welcome, everybody. It is the Michael Newman Show. I am Michael Newman. Haven't talked to you in a while. It's been right at a month since I've done a show, and we'll get into that coming up later on in the show. We'll talk about why that new format for the show. I'm going to do things a little bit differently, try to keep the show a little bit shorter and a bit more topical and add a little bit more me into it. But like I said, we'll get to that later. Make sure to go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. Gives you all the information about the links to today's stories, and you can follow me on Twitter, Newmaniac1, and support the show and all that cool stuff. So we'll get to that coming up. Today is 9/11. September 11th, and many years ago, was it 16 years ago now, that terrorists flew planes into the World Trade Center buildings there in New York City. And I found this to be interesting, a piece from the Daily Wire, and it's not in the United States, it's out of the UK. Today, the anniversary of September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks on American soil. Parents across the country are telling their children what happened on that horrible day 16 years ago, but the same isn't happening everywhere in the world. The United Kingdom lost 67 people that day, but some UK teachers are simply too terrified to teach their students about the attacks because they fear a backlash from Muslim parents. We have to deny history because you're too afraid to teach it. We have to be afraid of the truth. It's pretty startling, but it makes sense in today's world. You know, it's not about what's true. It's not about what's false. It's about what's popular. And if somebody gets unhappy because you happen to be speaking the truth, well, then that truth must be thrown away. That history must be thrown away. Those books must be burned. And by God, the monuments that exist to honor those people that fell on 9/11 must be torn down. Those things, that's all coming next. It's all coming next. It first started with all these monuments in the South being torn down. Oh, got to get rid of those monuments to those Civil War people, because they were all evil and bad, so we must strike it from history. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing, what should we reflect on in 9/11? What should we impart onto our children? What do you think? What do you think that is? Let me tell you what it is. The most important thing to tell your children is that the terrorists have won. That flying a plane, or two planes, in fact, into the World Trade Center, three if you also include the Pentagon, if that terrorist attack was perfectly successful. It did exactly what they wanted it to do. And the subsequent terrorist attacks that have been never-ending, unceasing since that day, have driven people into a fervor over terrorism that is unavoidable. Now, these teachers in the UK, do you think they're afraid of being blown up? I don't know that that's the case. I think they're afraid of parents, directly afraid of parents, because parents will complain. I think that's what they're afraid of. I don't know that they're afraid that somebody's going to walk into the school with a bomb. Some of them may have that fear, but I think it has to do more with not wanting to deal with a parent that's unhappy. So the tactic has worked, you see. This tactic of threats of violence, they work. We're seeing that here on the left today. Well, not just on the left, it's all over the place in the corporate sector as well. And it might not just be a threat of, physical harm. Could be a threat with your job. If you have the wrong opinions, if you say the wrong things, if you think the wrong way, you can be ostracized in this country. Even on your own time. If you say the wrong thing inside your house, somebody finds out about it, well, you can be fired from work. You are not protected in any way, shape, or form. And the left is using these same tactics. And it's working. It's working here. People are backing down. Now, you look at the demographics and you look at the numbers, and the left is not being voted in. But look what's happening around the country. Look what's happening around the country. Are any of the agitators on the left stopping? Are they not going? Is Antifa going to go away? Are they going to stop being violent because they saw the light? Are they going to stop being violent because the country disagrees with their tactics? No. Why would they? Their tactics are working. Their tactics are working. People have to think twice before they speak. People are afraid to open their mouth because they might get a boot in it. And that's all that really matters now, isn't it? That's where it starts. You know, if people are afraid to open their mouth, if they're afraid to speak the truth, then the opposition, no matter how small it might be, is going to win the day. And let me explain something to you about terrorism. I've been thinking about this for a while, and there's no easy way to put it. We have never fought terrorism here in the United States. We've been at war since 9/11. Lots of American soldiers are dead. We've dropped hundreds of thousands, billions of dollars worth of bombs in both Iraq and Afghanistan. There's been attack after attack after attack, and we're still at war in many places. But we've never fought terrorism. The United States military has never fought terrorism, and they've never fought terrorists. Let me explain that. First, when 9/11 happened, it wasn't long before we figured out who they were, the actual perpetrators of the act. And it wasn't long after that we figured out how they got into the country and how this whole train got started down the tracks. And once that was known, the nature of the threat, we had the opportunity to attack that threat head on. We did not do it. Instead, we sent troops to Afghanistan. We sent troops to Iraq and neglected to fight terrorism here at home. We neglected to secure our homeland. Imagine, had we changed things on 9/12, or let's just say the day that the intelligence came, whatever day that was, I'm sure the president and his staff knew far before the news media told the rest of us here in the United States the nature of these people. And the nature was illegal immigrants. That's who committed 9/11, not terrorists, illegal immigrants. Had we looked at them in that way, and had we gone after everyone in this country illegally at that point as a terrorist threat, had we went on a search for people that had overstayed their visas, or people that had got a student visa or some sort of vacation visa to come to the United States, overstayed it, or simply didn't do what they had promised to do. You see, the 9/11 terrorists were here on student visas. They were supposed to be going to college here in the United States. They didn't do that. They never showed up at all at the university, but no one said anything. No one did anything because the powerful, the Republican and Democrat parties, those that ride herd over all of us, do not want to close the borders. They do not want to secure the borders. They want open borders and all the dangers that come along with open borders. So instead of bringing our troops in, sending them down to the southern border, sending them up to the northern border, securing our ports, sending troops down to Florida. Instead of doing that, instead of tripling the size of the FBI and sending them after absolutely everyone that had overstayed a visa and started knocking down doors, which, by the way, after 9/11 would have been acceptable. It would have. On 9/12, you could have said, President Bush could have come out and said, hey, guess what? These people that knocked down these buildings, killed 3,000 Americans, they got here through a broken immigration system. An immigration system that the Democrat and Republican Party have been propping up for 30 years, 35, maybe even longer, and that we are now ruining the day that we decided open borders was the way to go. So we are going to send troops out, and we are going to find everyone that is illegal in this country, and we are going to remove them immediately. There will be no more outside influences that kill Americans in the United States. It would have been acceptable. Certainly would have. Do you even remember what it was like on 9/12? I mean, the rush of patriotism in this country, and the rush, and this lasted a year, 2 years, this rush to do anything to be safe, this fervor for that was palpable. It was everywhere. I felt it. But we didn't do that. Instead, we sent troops out to lob bombs. And now, 16 years later, after 16 years of war, we are no closer to ending terrorism and no closer to making the United States a more safe and secure nation than they ever were. It's no different today. Our security is no different today than it was on 9/10. And that's the truth. Now, as far as fighting terrorism, we've never done it. Let's say that we did want to go after the terrorists themselves, the acts of terrorism, those that would use terrorism as a tactic for a political end. We're going to go after them not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world, because terrorism shouldn't exist, which, hey, great. That's a noble cause. How do you fight terrorism? Well, how do you fight anybody? How do you fight anybody? How do you win anything? Well, let's put it in some different terms. How do you win a foot race? The gun goes off and you're running down the track. How do you win that race? You have to run harder and faster than the person next to you. You have to do the same thing that they're doing, but better and more. Okay? What if somebody pulls a gun on you? Or even better, you see them pull the gun and you pull yours as well. How do you not die? How do you not die? You've got two people with a gun pointed at each other. How do you not die? How do you not get shot? How do you live through that? You pull the trigger first. You apply more force, more decisively than the person that's attacking you. And this is the same when you're fighting any enemy, any foe, or playing any game. How do you become the valedictorian of your high school or college class? Well, I worked harder. No. It's not worked harder, because that doesn't matter. Some people could just be smarter and don't have to work as hard, still become valedictorian. What do you have to do? You have to get a better grade than everybody else. End of story. Whatever that takes on your part, however much force it takes on your part to get a better grade, the highest grade, that's what you do. The end result is how much force you apply, not how hard you tried. It's about winning the game, not how you play it. That's war. And that's real life. So we've never fought terrorism. What do I mean by that? Well, understand the nature of terrorism. Terrorism is a political motivation. That's it. Terrorists use a weapon. It's called fear. That's it. That's all terrorism is the use of fear to control a population, period. It's not about cutting heads off. It's not about that. If you can impose fear on a population without cutting their head off, then you'll do that. Whatever imposes the most amount of fear. That's what terrorism is about, is imposing fear on a population so that your group that is imposing said fear is so feared that no one will ever deny them. No one will ever rise up against them. That's what terrorism is. How much fear have we struck in the hearts of the terrorists? How much? I mean, they're willing to go a long way. They're willing to hold people in a cage and videotape them drowning to instill fear into the population. What will we do? What will we do? Because until the terrorists fear us, the Western world, until we become an enemy so intractable and so evil that it is unthinkable to attack us, then terrorism will continue, and that is a fact. You have to fight fear with fear. You have to fight terrorism with terrorism, and until we're willing to do that, we cannot eradicate it from the face of the earth. And that's the truth. I'm sorry. Sound awful? It does, doesn't it? That's not what we want here in the United States. That's not how we want to conduct ourselves. But it's the real world, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to fight on your enemy's terms. But you have to do it better, bigger, and more. That's how you win. The Japanese were an intractable enemy, one that would fight until their dying breath, and if they thought they were going to die, they'd just kill themselves. Intractable enemy. They dropped bombs and they did horrific things. Ask the Chinese how they were treated by the Japanese. What did it take to end the war? 2 nuclear bombs. That's what it took. You want to fight? We'll fight harder. You want to do awful things? We'll do the worst, most unbelievably awful thing you could ever think of. We'll just obliterate you. That's how you win. So until you're ready, until you're willing to make that decision, then I don't want to hear about fighting terrorism anymore. So, haven't done the show for a while. And there's several reasons. Number one, I don't know. There's no particular order. I just wrote some things down, and I'm reading them. Number one, I feel like I'm talking about the same stuff every time. Same arguments, same stuff. And over this past month, it's not like I've sort of turned my back on the news. I haven't done that. I've been watching the news and paying attention, and nothing's any different. Nothing's any different. Still craziness going on the college campuses out there. The same arguments that people have been making about transgenderism and Black Lives Matter and Antifa and the whole thing, it's the same arguments. They have not changed. It's just them screaming. Well, I say them. It's both sides screaming the same thing at each other, and no one's listening. Well, understand that the left is not going to listen because their tactics are working. So we have to change our tactics. And I don't know that any libertarians, conservatives, I don't know that they have it in them to win. So, it becomes difficult for me to talk about it. You know, it becomes difficult for me to talk about it. I don't see anything changing. I see it all getting worse. And frankly, the only thing that I think may save the planet or the human race is some sort of awful catastrophe, not war, not North Korea. That'll make it worse. I mean, like, an asteroid hitting the planet, or a super volcano going off, forcing everyone to buckle down and work and be responsible for themselves because there's not going to be anybody else out there to help them. And relearning personal responsibility. But Like I said, I haven't done the show in a while, and these things have been kind of bothering me. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to continue to speak and comment on these things. Like I said, there's going to be kind of a new format for the show. But I kind of also want to start talking about some new stuff, some fun stuff. I don't know what that's going to be yet. I don't even know what I'm interested in anymore. I've been so deep into politics for so long that it's actually going to be difficult for me to talk about anything else. And then on top of that, I have been, it's difficult doing what I do and, working in radio for 20 years and feeling like that entire 20 years was a waste of time, because I'm 39, I'm pushing 40 years old, and I feel like I've got nothing to show for it. I don't ever want to work at a radio station again, at least not as an employee, because it's not a real job. There's no stability there whatsoever. There's no reason. It's going nowhere. It's a great big long train to nowhere. So I don't want to do that anymore. And now I'm just trying to figure out what to do with my life and the skills that I have. So I've been kind of working on that, trying to, parlay my voiceover and what have you into more of a career. So that's been something that I've been working on. And the whole thing has really, it's taken a couple of months since I lost my gig, but the whole thing really sort of got to me. And I kind of got, in the state of depression. And because of the depression, I started drinking a lot more. And I have been drinking quite a little bit over the past 3 or 4 months. Maybe a little bit longer than that. I don't know. And I just, I told myself I'm going to have to stop it. I'm just going to have to stop. And so that's what I've been doing over the past month, trying to get some things together. I actually didn't drink at all this weekend, which is a big deal. Most people think, what are you talking about? Over one weekend? It's huge for me not to go to the liquor store on the weekend. I'm actually kind of afraid the people at the liquor store are going to be worried. There's a call. Are you all right? What's going on? Well, you weren't in here. We was totally worried about you because you're in here like clockwork, man. Which, thank you, by the way. It doesn't make me feel bad at all, but I'm going to try to do that. Quit the drinking thing cold turkey. And then I remembered back in the day when I was actually, most happy, I was in a much better shape than I am now. So I have been going to the gym for the past couple of weeks. I forgot how much that hurts. Yeah, hurts a lot. But I'm getting back into it. Got the thing. I even got a new key card, right? The old key card was falling apart, and it was sort of a metaphor for my life. So I got a new key card today, and that's good. So I'll be able to go in whenever with a fresh new. That's fun. So over the past month, I've been thinking about the show. I've been sort of lamenting those sorts of things, trying to make a little bit extra money and sort of get back in shape, or at least start that process and cool down on the drinking, which I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to give it a try. What do you think? And as far as the new format of the show goes, we're running long already. I don't even know if I'll get to the news today, but the format is going to be one story, like sort of the main story with commentary, and then a bunch of short stories that are the news of the day. Just basically quick headlines and a quick analysis next story, and try to keep the whole thing down to, at least no more than half an hour, because I feel like it's going way, way too long, and I don't want and I want people to actually listen to the show. By the way, so that's going to be the new format, by the way, and we're not going to get to the news today because I'm giving you a little commentary on me, and we're running up on 30 minutes here. But I would like to hear from you to, number one, know that you're out there, and number two, to sort of help out the show. What would be good to talk about other than, outside the political realm? I watch a lot of videos of people doing stuff, like building stuff and what have you. God, I'd love to do that. You know what I want to do? I want to build a boat. I would love to build a boat, a wooden boat, get an idea in my head, the idea that I have is far too grandiose for right now, but I had another idea, and I'm like, that's within the realm of what I could do. So maybe a project like that, and then I don't know. I thought about brewing beer again, but then I realized, hey, you're an alcoholic. You need to stop that. So, well, wouldn't that be fun? A whole show about brewing beer? I could have a dating show where I just throw hatchets at people. Not people that I'm dating. People that are dating. Yes. Couples. See the couple, and then you throw hatchets at both of them. It's marriage training, because that's life coming at you. We'll see how long they stick together. So, use her as a human shield. So, yeah, I would like to hear from you any feedback that you've got on the show. And that's about it at this point in time. We're going to wrap things up. And, yeah, just make sure you go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. Let me know what you think. All right, that is it. We are wrapping things up. And sorry I didn't get to more today. I do have some news that we're going to touch on tomorrow. But that is the way it is. MichaelNewmanProductions.com. That's where the show links will be today. You can contact me via email. Twitter, Newmaniac1 is my handle. You can check out the services link and support the show on Patreon. Love you if you do that for me. Have a great evening.
See ya.